there's this reluctance to pick a running back in the first round because he might not be around for a second contract. Fact is, most first-round picks don't sign second contracts. Per overthecap.com, 31% of first-round picks from 2011 to 2014 signed second contracts with teams. And well under half the players from 2011 to 2019, the last year we were able to figure in first-rounders to get second contracts re-signed. Later he writes, I don't think teams, particularly teams that are in contention, would be significantly improved with a great offensive weapon, should be overly concerned with whether a rookie will be around long enough to sign a second contract. If you only had Robinson for 5 years, 4 years plus exercising the fifth-year option as a first-round pick, and he played behind the kind of offensive line in, say, Philadelphia, you are telling me it wouldn't be worth the pick? Not to fixate on Philly, but 2 of their last 4 top picks, Jalen Reagor and Andre Dillard, didn't work out anyway. The average first contract cap number for Robinson in Philadelphia would be $5.5 million. But let's not stick to Philly. Go mid-first round and pick 18, where Detroit would certainly be in contention to draft Robinson. His cap number in the first 4 years as the 18th pick, 2.8, 3.5, 4.2, and 4.8 million. Between 1% and 3% of your cap each year. Steve Sarkisian said he's an every down back who can run between the tackles, can make people miss on the perimeter, is extremely difficult to get on the ground in space, and can run routes like a receiver. He can catch the ball like a receiver. I think the game of the NFL is ready to fit his skill set, maybe to some degree a little bit better than college, quite frankly. I mean, first of all, it's interesting information that between 2011 and 2019, less than half of first-round picks get a second contract with the team. So if you're only getting 5 years out of Bijon Robinson, but it's 5 really good years and he gets beat up and that's the end of him, his point is that's okay, because if you take a player to position of need or a player, that is more typical of high to mid-first round picks, those players still have a less than 50% chance of re-signing with your own team.
Yeah, but running backs are disposable. So I think that's the argument against taking him in the first round. You take a running back in the second round, it's 4 years. I want the chance that a guy is good enough to give the fifth-year option to and wanting to give him an extension. I am so less likely to do that for a running back than it is than just about any other position, just because of, use him and throw him away.
Well, what he doesn't address is exactly what you said, is that there are so many productive mid to late round running backs in the league that you really don't need to invest this kind of draft capital on a running back. He doesn't really address that. He addresses one part of it, and his point being, if he's good, and it's only a short window, it's still worth it, is his point. But if you want to look at the hit rate for running backs, you can find him in rounds other than 1.
Well, and Frank, I could use the 5-year argument as a reason why you would want him, because you're done with him after 5 years, and you could go ahead and that's a position now that I can just use in the draft 4 or 5 years from now with a second, third, or fourth round pick, and hopefully try to get some of that same production. The thing with Bijon Robinson is he has the potential to be great from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
And really improve a team's running attack.
Now, the point that he quotes Sarkisian on, you go watch Bijon Robinson's tape, and he can catch the ball. He can really catch the ball out of the backfield. And, there's sometimes there's lip service to it, but I think this staff really does value versatility and the ability to do a number of things and to be a 3-down guy, which by all accounts, Bijon Robinson doesn't have to come off the field.
No, you don't have to listen to his coach to know that he's a dynamic back and he can do lots of different things. Just watch the tape. He's great.
Kang, what do you make of this Bijon Robinson analysis from Peter King?
I understand what he's saying. Makes a valid point that, hey, you only need this guy in his first contract. And that kind of goes with my thinking of is like, I never want to pay a running back his second contract. As far as a big contract, of course you're going to re-sign or sign other running backs in the league after their first contract. But to set the market is where I get really scared about that. Now, if you get Bijon Robinson and he's the next Jonathan Taylor on a rookie deal, I mean, I think we all say yes, right? But do you use a 6th overall pick there? That's where that's where I think everyone has at least reservations. I think 18 you could sell people on. 6th overall, do you really need to use a high-end pick on a running back nowadays? I think most people would say no, even if he's Jonathan Taylor. I mean, look at Saquon Barkley. They weren't able to do anything until Daniel Jones got his act together, and that was, maybe the signing of Brian Dable that helped that.
I've said this a million times, and Kang, all very good points. I mean, Jonathan Taylor getting Jonathan Taylor in your backfield is a great thought for an offense that really did it last year with no elite playmakers. They have we could argue that the most elite thing about the Lions is the offensive line. Goff behind an offensive line that gives him time is pretty damn effective. The closest they have to an elite playmaker is probably Amon-Ra St. Brown. Bijon Robinson might become the most talented guy with the ball in his hands. So, yeah, and it's hard to envision the impact a high-end running back can make until you see him and plug him into your offense and go, oh, my God, this really is cool. The problem I have with the Bijon Robinson criticism is the same problem I have with a lot of criticism when it comes to the draft is I feel like people are falling victim to hard and fast rules. Like, I am willing to take a player that I don't think is as good, that I will take a worse player because I have a rule that I don't draft a running back this high, or because I can get one later. That to me is foolish. That to me is, I would never think that way, and you have to evaluate each draft differently. Like if the gap, there are people that think Bijon Robinson's one of the top 3 players in the draft, and he could be on the board at 18. And that's how different each draft is. When the people say don't take a running back in the first rounds, because typically running backs aren't considered one of the top 3 players in the draft. This year, this draft, it very well could be different.
Yeah, you're right. The talent level has to match where the draft evaluation spot is, right? And another thing in the Lions' favor, if they do decide to take Bijon Robinson at 6, is that the only missing piece on the offense, really? I mean, let's take out tight end for a moment here, because no one's going to want to take a tight end 6th overall, right? But if you feel you're okay at receiver with St. Brown and Jameson Williams, and you got your quarterback, your offensive line is set, and Bijon Robinson is supposed to be a top 3, top 5 player in this draft, do you just plug him in there and say, hey, this thing is going to be humming along? I mean, you don't build it around Bijon. Everything's already built around him, so now you just plug in Bijon.
Amon-Ra St. Brown's already talking about how he expects the Lions or thinks the Lions can be number 1 in every offensive category. That's before entering the draft and taking a running back, if that's possible. I mean, they've shown the ability to run the football a little bit. They're not one of the best teams in running the ball.
Better than they've been in a while.
Well, yeah, but I mean, look, they ran the ball extremely well in situations.
Yeah.
Goal line, they were unstoppable, right? So that was great. But what they didn't have was a running back who was going to go for or threaten you for 100 yards every game. Bijon Robinson would threaten that. And he would absolutely make this offense be even better. But it's just funny because you look at this draft, there's the 2 first-round picks. What happens at 6 will make me more comfortable with what they do at 18.
Right, sure. And so
because I feel like if they get 6 right, if Will Anderson falls into their lap at 6, if you want to tell me you're going to draft Bijon Robinson or Quentin Johnston, I'm going to lean back and go, yep, go ahead. Do it. You got the guy on defense.
Your point is interesting, guys. I think you used the word that he would be a running back that has to be accounted for. If you're a team and you had problems stopping the Lions' offense last year with Jamal Williams and hit and miss DeAndre Swift, imagine how much more difficult it'll be with Bijon Robinson and David Montgomery.
Yeah.
I mean, who's the number one?
It's quite a duo.
Who's going to be the number 1 bullet point on a defensive coordinator's game plan against the Lions?
I mean, what would you do if they had that? Would you pick your poison and stop the run, stop the pass?
If you're stopping the run, good luck covering Amon-Ra and hopefully Jameson Williams.
Well, that's the
right?
thing. I'd like to think about this in a direct correlation to that. If you're going to stop the run, what comes up? The safeties come up, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to commit the safeties to help stop the run, number 0 or whatever his number is going to be, number 1 or whatever he's going to be this year, number 1, right?
Yes.
Jameson Williams?
Well, he might be.
Jameson Williams is going to streak right past you, and he could be wide freaking open if you're going to pick your poison to try to stop the run. Now, that's if they get Bijon Robinson. There's a lot to think about.
There's a lot to think about, but I wonder if anybody that was against this is warming up to the idea. It's amazing how often Detroit ends up with a choice of Bijon Robinson at 18. And keep in mind as well, there is a chance that they could trade out of the pick at 6 and move back and get extra draft capital and Bijon Robinson